people, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make these adorable field note size traveler's notebook inserts using a variety of different papers on the inside. These notebooks are awesome for doing all kinds of things. You can see I've got mine all here, and I'm also going to be showing you how to use these dashboards that come for free down in the description below, and how you can use those. So let's get started and make some cool stuff. So before we begin the project, there's a couple of things that you're going to need. So you're going to want to have some paper. I've got 4 different kinds here. I have a vellum, just a white copy paper, and then sheets of craft paper. These are all your standard size letter paper. Also, I have some grid paper. This I actually took from an old notebook that's no longer in use, so I'm reusing it. Though if you have some of that that's letter size, that's fine. If you have other kind of papers, maybe you want to use black or a different color or a different style, that's cool too. The other kind of paper that you're going to need for the cover is some kind of cardstock. And you can get this at like plenty of craft stores or online from places like Studio Calico or Felicity Jane. I like the ones that are double-sided, so they have a design on the front and back. So you'll need a piece of this. You will also need something to cut with. I use this to do my cutting. If you don't have one of these, that's totally fine. You can just use scissors. This just makes it neater and easier. You'll need something to bind your journal. I'm going to use this giant stapler. A regular stapler isn't going to work because it won't be long enough to hit the center. If you don't have one of these either, I'm also going to show you an alternative where you can use a needle and some twine to bind your book. And a couple of other things that are optional. I actually don't know what the name of this is. I think it's like it's called a bone or something. I really don't know what the name of it is. But basically it helps you to smooth the edges of your paper when you fold it and make it really nice and flat. And then this little tool here, which I use to round my corners to give it that nice finished edge. Again, these things are optional, but I like them. I feel like it helps to make the product look a little more professional. So, a standard size traveler's notebook typically measures, when closed, 3.5 by 5.5. So we want to cut out our cover first. So we actually need to make it 7 by 5.5. What's cool is this paper is plenty big enough for me to actually make more than one out of. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to make 2 out of it. So I'll make it 7. I'll cut 7 this way, and then I'll cut 2 at 5.5 and 5.5 this way, so that we get this piece here. So I've got my pieces of cardstock, and I'm just going to line it up at the 7-inch mark. And I am cutting more than one piece at a time because I'm making a bunch of these. So you're just going to cut through it. Again, if you don't have one of these, go ahead and use a ruler to measure and some scissors. Okay, so now I'm cutting it at 5.5. I've got to use my other hand. You'll have to bear with me. I'm learning how to do things with my left hand because of my wrist, and it's not always easy. Okay, I may be cutting too many at once, but whatever. So then I'm just going to take this and measure 5.5 again. So you've got some scraps. I like to use these. You can kind of use them as faux washi tape, so I save those. Then I've got this scrap, which is great. Save this stuff for a future project. Okay, so we've cut out our piece of paper. That's going to be our top. our cover piece. And so now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna punch around the edges of it. Again, I gotta use my left hand, I keep forgetting. It's just weird to use your left hand when you do everything with your right. And I really like punching around the edges because I feel like it just gives it this really nice finished edge. It makes it look, you know, more professional, I feel like. And then we're gonna take this and we're gonna fold it. So you just wanna be careful to line up your edges really well. Get those all lined up. And then again, try to use my left hand. So once you have your edges lined up, just wanna smooth that down. And I like to smooth mine really well. I like it to be nice and flat. Okay, so you can see that's nice and flat. So now you have this. So now we are going to do the same thing with all the different papers that we have. Okay, so I've got the 4 kind of papers that I'm going to use, and you only need for this project 2 sheets of each, except for this one, which I'll need 4, because 1 sheet of letter size paper is actually going to make 2 pages. So we actually only need 4 sheets of each page. So I will show you. So the first paper I'm using is a craft paper. And so we can get 2 sheets out of this, which is nice. So we've got our craft paper here, and because we want to get 2 sheets out of this, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it the long way, because we'll get one here and here. So we're going to cut it 7 across here, but I'm actually going to be cutting it a little less than 7 inches, because what happens is if you don't, like I did here, your edge of your paper, because there's so many of them, begins to stick out beyond your cover. So you want to make your inner pages just a little bit smaller than the 7 inches. So I've got 2 sheets of paper here, and we're going to cut at 7 inches this way, and then we'll take it out, and we're going to be cutting 5.5 this way, and then another 5.5, and it should, yep, so right there, 5.5, 11 inches. So now you have 4 sheets for your journal. So we'll set those aside, and I'm going to do the same with the white paper and the vellum. My last paper, I'm using some grid paper from an old notebook that I had. So for this, you'll need 4 pieces of paper, where when you use the letter size, we only needed 2 to make the notebook. If you have letter size, then obviously you only need 2. But for this I'm going to need 4. And the first thing I'm going to do is I just want to cut off this edge because it's rounded and it has that line there, so I want to cut that off. Because I'll be putting my own edge on it. And then you want to take that edge you just cut off and again place it just under the 7-inch mark. And cut it. And then, so I have this edge where I kind of tore it out of the notebook, so obviously that's the edge I want to cut. So I'm measuring it at 5.5, and I'm just going to cut off that edge up there. So now that we have all our papers, I'm going to be taking this again and just going with taking all my papers and rounding the corners. Okay, now we have all 4 kinds of our paper cut. So now, just like the cover, we have to fold them all. So now we've got our cover cut, we've got 4 of each kind of the pages cut. So now it's time to assemble our little notebook. So I like to put my pages together randomly. You can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 and put them together. I kind of like mine to be a little bit mixed up. So I might grab one of these ones. Also think about what you want your first page to be. Actually, I think I'm going to do the craft paper first because I want my first opening page to be this blank craft paper. So I might go 3. Okay, so I've got my pages together. So all in all, this book is going to end up creating a 36-page book. So you've got your 12 sheets cut in half, and then front to back, that gives you 36 pages. So here's what I want to show you why you want to make your inner pages a little bit smaller. Because see, once you start stacking them together, they kind of like overlap each other because it gets too fat. And that's why you want to make your inner pages just slightly smaller than your cover, so that doesn't happen. So then you just want to grab your cover and put it all inside. Okay, so before I bind it together, I want to make sure my pages are all lined up really, really well. I want to make sure they all line up. And then to hold it in place while I do this, I am actually going to put a clip on the pages so they don't move. And I'm just checking all around the edges to make sure I'm nice and lined up. Okay, see, I can see I got a little bubble there. So I just want to make sure it's clips well and tight. There, so I've got it clipped so it's not going anywhere. And then I kind of want to mark where I want my staples to start. So I'm just gonna take a ruler and a pencil and mark, you know, I want them in a little bit. So I probably want the staple to start like maybe a 1/2 inch in. So I'm just gonna mark a 1/2 inch on each side. And that's where the staple will start. They're kind of long staples, so. Okay, so. Alright, now I've got my big giant stapler. And again, you can't use a regular stapler because it won't reach to the center where you need it to. Because we're going to be sticking this in here like this, and it would hit the back if it was a normal stapler. But it won't on this one. And like I said, if you don't have one of these, I'll show you momentarily how to do it with a stitch. I am just going to take a scrap piece of paper and check my stapler. Make sure it's stapling well and got staples in it. So when you staple, you want to make sure you staple on the front cover with the front cover side up. You don't want to staple this side up because you want the finished edge to be on the outside. I see where my dot is, and that's where my staple is going to begin. Just want to make sure I have it where the staple comes through, nice and lined up. There's one. And just checking to make sure it's all lined up. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take my clips off. And so again, now that my staples are in, I'm going back to my tool here and smoothing it some more. I do a lot of this because otherwise, like, see how it's jumping open? And again, I want it to be nice and flat. There, and see how that's much flatter. So there you have it. You've got yourself a little notebook. And what I love is just how different the pages are. So you've got this page, and then since we didn't put them in, you never know what kind of page you're gonna get. You know, and then you've got grid, and we've got our vellum, and then white. So you have all these different mediums of paper to work on, which is really fun. So I'm just gonna take a second and show you mine. So then I took all of mine, I made a bunch of them, and I put them inside this traveler's notebook. And so this is the free dashboard that you're gonna get that I used on one of mine, but I'll go over that with you at the end. But yeah, I really love how the pages are mixed medium, and you can see how I used it here in mine. The vellum is probably my favorite of all the papers in there, but you can really use so many different kinds of papers in these journals. So that's just a quick peek at mine. So next up, I'm just going to show you how to do it an alternative way if you don't have the stapler. Okay, so if you don't have a stapler, not a big deal. You can actually, I don't know if you can see this. This was the first book that I made, and I didn't have the stapler, and I actually did a binding with twine, just some like hemp string, and I'll show you the center what that looks like. And then see, I just made 2 holes. So I just used a heavyweight needle, like a rug needle or some other kind of needle. I marked where I wanted my holes to be on the paper. So I've got a hole here, here, and here. So you need to just mark 3 holes, one here, and here. And then I put the pin through the paper, and then I used, I took like a thin piece of wire and put the string on and pulled the string through those holes, and then just tied it on the inside. You could also do this with a piece of floss or anything really to tie it. And it actually, to be honest, I actually like the way this looks better than the staples, but it takes much longer to do. So that's why I'm using the staples, because I'm like making a bunch of them. Because otherwise it just takes really long time when you do it that way. Okay, so down in the description of this video, there's a freebie for you if you want to take advantage of it. And what comes in the freebie, it's a printable, so you print it out, and it's going to give you 3 sheets. The first sheet is just some fun stuff. It has some labels and stuff on it that you can cut out and use on the cover of your notebook to label what it is. And then it also has just some cool pieces you can cut out and use to decorate your notebook. And then the second and third page are actually dashboards for your notebook. It's really just this pretty decorative element that you can cut out and put around your notebook. So I will show you. I opted to print the printable kit on vellum paper. So just like the vellum we used in the notebook, I went ahead and printed the printable on it. And so you can see how pretty that is. And so I've got a couple cut out right here. Here's the 2 free dashboards. So you just cut them out and fold them just like we did all our sheets of paper. I even rounded the corners so it would match. And then it just slips right around it, and then you slip this into your traveler's notebook. So just a nice pretty decorative element. You can change them out with the season or whatever you want to do. Get creative with it. And then so like for this cover, you could even label it, cut out one of these labels and put it on the front. Here's the other one that I made. Looks so pretty. If you wanted to, you could take cut like this label out and put it across the bottom here, or you might just like to leave your dashboard pretty and then put the label here. Whatever you want to do. So yeah, don't be afraid to, you could print this on white paper, but also, like I said, I love the vellum, so I would suggest going ahead and printing it on the vellum. Well, my lovely friends, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you really love these journals, but you have decided making them is not for you, you can check out my store. I'll have links down below because I'm actually going to sell some of these in there. So if you want one of these cuties, but you've decided making it isn't for you, don't forget to go ahead and download your free printable. It's down in the description. The link is down there. I'll also provide some other links to where I got some of the tools and some of the other stuff that I used today. Thank you for being with me. If you found some value in this, I ask you humbly to please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And